You're listening to the House of Cards on the Big Patriot Radio Network.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down now.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Once again, it is Mike Covert right here with you on Beaufort County's House of Cards. Welcome, once in everyone, one and all, another Thursday edition to the big show here. In the area. Man, I tell you, last week's show was huge. The biggest show we've ever had. When you take the people that were watching on all four channels and also those we've had watch afterwards, because you can go back on YouTube and, Twitter and Facebook and whatever. We've had 3,000 eyes on the show for last week. Wow, that's crazy. We do want to welcome everybody, no matter what, where or what format you're listening on, whether that is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, two channels on Facebook, by the way, or simulcast. We are live on bigpatriotradio.com. And don't forget, we have 5 nights worth of podcasts on Big Patriot Radio. Monday nights is the New America Movement with David and Jordan Cox out of Easley and Greenville area of South Carolina, the upstate. Wednesday night, we have the number 1 rated show a couple years running now. That is Corey Allen and the Overton Report, and that is at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, and then again at 9 o'clock. I should say that New American Movement is at 7 and 9. Corey at 8 and 9. Then we have on, Thursday night is us. Saturday, our good friend and the radio Chickadee Ubellis and Southern Sense Radio Show. She's on at 7 o'clock, and Sundays at 7 o'clock. My good friend Andrew Southwick and Culture Crossroads. Let's see. The number 1 song this week on Big Patriot Radio was, how about this? Crack Cocaine from Ozzy Osbourne. Number 1 listening cities, Mount Pleasant and Bluffton. Likely due to our guest candidate, Catherine Templeton, running for Congress in CD1, being on the show. Aiken, South Carolina, Murphy, North Carolina, tied for 3rd. And again, we did see the largest viewership of the show last week. And thank you to everyone, whether you're listening live, watching live, or whatever. Please consider, we ask you, please, if you can, consider a donation to us. You see on the bottom of the ticker right there, here it's going by this way. Consider a donation to our Venmo account or go to patreon.com/Beaver House of Cards and consider contributing to the show. It's what keeps everything going. Love to have you join us. Before we get onto tonight's show, most important thing is that today is D-Day, Remembrance Day, June 6, 1944. American paratroopers, including my great uncle Hilton Wolfe, jumped out of planes onto the beaches of Normandy in France. Approximately half of those men were killed. Most, like my great uncle, who made it, were shell-shocked by the bursting of bombs, gunfire, etc. Then they were scarred for life. Those that lived went on to liberate Paris that August, and then on to the acclaimed Battle of the Bulge in December. So take time to honor those of the greatest generation. They fought, some lived, many died, so we can be here tonight and do this, what we're doing now.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
We've got a great show again for you tonight, and a guest coming on at about 7:45, somewhere around that time frame. But first, you have been lied to. You were lied to. You've been lied to. You're still being lied to. You saw that on the headline of the show during the day. What was once considered conspiracy theories by some and far-right lies has been coming to light over time as we go forward and forward and forward. And instead of being far-right conspiracy, now it's being known as right on and truth, not fiction. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. First, over the past week, if you've been paying attention of any sort, you saw, like on C-SPAN, YouTube, etc., you would know that Dr. Anthony Fauci has been sitting in front of a U.S. House committee testifying. He has been getting absolutely grilled over the COVID virus response and the actual detailings of the virus. You know, the where, when, why, how sort of thing. Now, there have been several instances of stories changing here and there, blame being passed here and there, and back and forth. While and that is all interesting and makes for great fodder, it's going to likely go nowhere, as we've seen with other things. What is going somewhere is truth. Now, we say this all the time. Not subjective truth, which would be your feelings, but objective truth, which is real truth based on facts. Strangely, in the world which we live in, facts, as of the last several years, have been up for discussion. By nature, that makes them subjective, which is plainly wrong. Truth is not subjective. It is objective. It is not your feelings. It is truth based on fact. The commonality is something that typically the left, if you want to say the fringe, that's fine. They work hard at. You know, what's bad is good. What's wrong is right. What's evil is heavenly. Now, the left can say what all they want, that, you know, the right is trying to remove your constitutional rights and all this other baloney. What the left is preaching, the Marxists, the socialists, the Democrats, the far Democrats, the communist type, what's bad is good, what's wrong is right, and what's evil is heavenly. Anyway, if you do your homework, and I know all of our listeners certainly do, you'll find articles after articles about how COVID CT or conspiracy theories are all over the place. Typically, these are written by or endorsed by the NIH, National Institutes of Health, or the NIAID, or whatever. It's the parent company, if you will, I guess. NIAID, Fauci mentions it all the time. The same institutions, both of those that Dr. Fauci has control over, or did, I think he retired, as does the federal government. One thing interesting is the descriptions of those who believe in these conspiracy theories. In a written book, so to speak, called, quote, a latent profile analysis of COVID-19's conspiracy beliefs, associations with thinking styles, mistrust, socio-political control, need for closure, and verbal intelligence. That was published in 2023, published by the National Library of Medicine and the National Institutes of Health. Now, one of the most crass, or let's just say ballsy, statements in this publication is what the authors decide the usual suspect of conspiracy theories, the right, what they look like and how they behave. This is a statement from the publication. This was, National Library of Medicine and the National Institutes of Health. They put this statement in the book. Quote, those holding stronger COVID-19 conspiracy theory beliefs are more likely to reason emotively, feel less socio-political control, mistrust others, have lower verbal ability, and adhere less to COVID-19 guidelines. That's right. I did say that. So we can ascertain that, again, these government employees, that's who does this, these are government employees, are calling anyone, all of us that have had conspiracy theories, calling anyone who calls into question the relevance or the truth of the COVID-19 concern, the shot, any of it, we're less likely to reason with emotion, less in control of ourselves, and we have lower verbal ability. That's real nice. Your government has said you're basically, you stuck under a rock and you don't know how to speak and you have no control over yourself. Way to go, NIH. Way to go. The publication is definitely in depth and is categorizing these folks who just don't believe everything we hear is gospel as well. The kooks. Yet higher education teaches the individual to ask why. That's right. Any higher education, one of the skills of it is the premise to ask why. It's part of critical thinking. How? Ask how. Part of critical skills, but not when the government is talking. This is what our government is saying now. How dare you? You are to question. You are to wonder why. You are to seek critical knowledge, but not when it's the government. Wow, this sounds very, very similar to things from back in years gone by. That's blasphemic to some proportions. In and of itself, gives zero credibility to these programs. Now, if you would like to think, if you like a link to that publication, rather not to think, but a link to that publication, just let me know and I'll be glad to send it to you. But the truth, again, the truth is not an arguable point. Neither is reality. The truth is being told louder and louder and louder. What if I told you that coronavirus did not become a thing in a wet lab in Wuhan? What if I told you and you learned that this subject, coronavirus, has been around since 1966? What if you learned that the actual COVID-19 virus was engineered, aka made, developed, in the United States as a weapon at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill? What if you knew all of that and learned that we were being lied to the entire time? What if you learned that in 2017 it was the following phrase released? It was released. What if you learned this, that it was released in the medical and governmental community? This phrase, and I quote it, there is going to be an accidental or international or I'm sorry, there is going to be an intentional release of a respiratory pathogen, end quote. What if you learned that was said back in 2017, 3 years prior to our pandemic? What if you learned that the truth, or rather, what if you learned the truth that nature was hijacked, science was hijacked, morality was suspended, and humanity was lost? What if you learned that? I'd love to hear from you on your chat bar. Send us a message. I do want to introduce to you, quite possibly, one of the smartest people I have ever read about and studied. His name is Dr. David Martin. Dr. Martin received his undergraduate, his BA from Goshen College, his Master's of Science from Ball State, and his PhD, his doctorate, from the University of Virginia. Dr. Martin is a Batten Fellow at the University of Virginia's Darden Graduate School of Business Administration. He founded MCAM International in 1998 and has served as its CEO and chairman since that time. MCAM has been an international intangible asset underwriter and analyst firm spanning work in innovation finance, trade, and intangible asset finance. Dr. Martin is the developer of several innovation-based quantitative indices of public equities. He created some stock indices. He's the founder of the Purple Bridge Funds. He managed the Innovation Alpha ETFs. He's the creator of the Public Equity Index, the CNBC IQ 100, powered by MCAM, which is now reported as a leading economic indicator of the United States and global innovation economy, published by the Conference Board. As a spokesman for global financial and intangible asset accountability and quality reform, Dr. Martin has worked closely with the United States Congress, numerous trade and financial regulatory agencies in the U.S., Europe, Asia, in advocating and deploying infrastructure to support growing reliance on contract and proprietary rights in business transactions. Stuff I don't understand. Under his leadership, they've modernized banking, intangible asset, tax, and accounting laws through its work with oversight agencies and policy markets. I could go on and on. As a former assistant professor at the University of Virginia's School of Medicine, wait a minute, he got his PhD in like business. Yeah, he's also into medicine. Dr. Martin founded the university's first wholly owned for-profit research and development and technology transfer corporation. I could go on and on. This guy is not stupid. This guy is not an idiot. Business, law, medicine, finance, stocks, gee whiz. I don't even feel able to be in the same room as this dude. On May 3rd, 2023, maybe some of you have seen this, Dr. Martin spoke at the European Parliament International COVID Summit in Brussels, Belgium. We have a copy of his speech. I want to show it to you. It's a video. His speech at this event, and let me first say, first and foremost, I have actually no idea of his political affiliation. If you read some of his writings, he says things here and there that could really be taken either way, right and left. I don't know, and I really don't care. But it is obviously important to ask or to think about. What I do know is this guy is the real deal. I'm going to put up this video. I'm going to break in here and there, and we'll speed it up at 1 or 2 points to get to the subject at hand. So let's bring this up. And again, you've been lied to. We've been lied to. We've been digging on the truth. We knew it was there, and now we're starting to see it. And it's okay to be pissed off, because after this, you probably will. So let's get to that.
This is really a great opportunity for us. As you know, there have really been two pandemics. The first pandemic was really the one which was the storyline that we were all fed. that many of us swallowed whole, which came from our governments and other institutions. But the other pandemic is the one that we're going to be focusing on today, which is what happened after that first one was declared. The second,
go ahead and
more the real
speed up
pandemic.
to Dr. Martin.
And so thank you very much, and we'll get started.
It is a particularly interesting location for me to be sitting today, given that over a decade ago, I sat in this very chair right here in the European Union Parliament. And at that time, I warned the world of what was coming. During that conversation that was hosted at the time by the Green and EFA and a number of the other parties of the European Union's various representations, we were having a conversation on whether Europe should adopt the United States policy of allowing for the patents on biologically derived materials. And at the time, I urged this body and I urged people around the world that the weaponization of nature against humanity had dire consequences.
Now, this guy, again, this guy is remarkably intelligent. Pay attention to specific things that he is saying. Make notes if you need to. This is super important. I may speed up just a little bit to get to the crux of his talk.
Tragically, I sit here today with that unfortunate line that I don't like to say, which I told you so. But the fact of the matter is, we're here not for a reprisal on past decisions. We're here to actually, once again, come to the face of the human condition and ask the question, who do we want to be? What do we want humanity to look like? And rather than seeing this as an exercise in futility, which is very easy from time to time when you're in the position I'm in about biological patents, nobody cared. But when that conversation came home, you are aware of my involvement with this, in large part due to the amazing work of my wonderful wife, Kim Martin, who encouraged me at the very early days of this pandemic to get on front of the camera and talk about all the information that I had been sharing among very small groups around the world. And it was, in fact, her encouragement that put me in a place where many of you have heard what I have to say. Ironically, the world that I came from that used to be very popular, my CNBC and Bloomberg presentations, which were televised on mainstream media around the world, was an audience that I lost. I can confidently say COVID diminished my fame. But I can also confidently say that I'd rather stand among the people with whom I'm standing today than any of the folks that were part of that previous world. So this is a much better place to be. My role today is to set the stage for this conversation in a historical context, because this did not come in the last 3 years. This did not come in the last 5 or 6 years. This actually is an ongoing question that probably began here in Europe in the early stages of the mid-1900s, but certainly by 1913, 1914, this conversation started right here in Central Europe. The pandemic that we alleged to have happen in the last few years also did not happen overnight. In fact, the very specific pandemic using coronavirus began in a very different time. And we'll try to advance the slides here with one of these things. Oh, there we go. Most of you don't know that coronavirus as a model of a pathogen was isolated in 1965.
First thing right there. Did you hear that? Coronavirus as a pathogen was modeled in 1965.
Coronavirus was identified in 1965 as one of the first infectious replicatable viral models that could be used to modify a series of other experiences of the human condition. It was isolated once upon a time associated with the common cold. But what's particularly interesting about its isolation in 1965 was that it was immediately identified as a pathogen that could be used and modified for a whole host of reasons. And you heard me correctly, that was 1965. And by the way, these slides are public domain. You're welcome to look at every single reference. Every comment that I made is based on published material. So do make sure that you look at those references. But in 1966, the very first COV coronavirus model was used as a transatlantic biological experiment in human manipulation. And you heard the date, 1966. I hope you're getting the point of what I'm saying. This is not an overnight thing. This is actually something that's been long in the making.
Is everybody understanding that? This is not something that happened in the middle of the night. This is something that's been going on since 1965.
A year before I was born, we had the first transatlantic coronavirus data sharing experiment between the United States and the United Kingdom. And in 1967, the year I was born, we did the first human trials on inoculating people with modified coronavirus.
Right there. 1967, year I was born as well. The United States and the United Kingdom did transatlantic trials with inoculations for coronavirus. Not in 2020 or 2019, 1967.
Isn't that amazing? 56 years ago, the overnight success of a pathogen that's been 56 years in engineering. And I want that to chill with all of you. Where were we when we actually allowed, in violation of biological and chemical weapons treaties, where were we?
Another great point. This transatlantic testing for coronavirus between the United States and the United Kingdom is illegal. Illegal according to multiple treaties from NATO and the United Nations.
As a human civilization, when we thought it was an acceptable thing to do to take a pathogen for the United States and infect the world with it. Where was that conversation? And what should have been that conversation in 1967? That conversation wasn't had. Ironically, the common cold was turned into a chimera in the 1970s. And in 1975, 1976, and 1977, we started figuring out how to modify coronavirus by putting it into different animals, pigs and dogs. And not surprisingly, by the time we got to 1990, we found out that coronavirus as an infectious agent was an industrial problem for two primary industries, the industries of dogs and pigs. Dog breeders and pigs found that coronavirus created gastrointestinal problems, and that became the basis for Pfizer's first spike protein vaccine patent filed, are you ready for this, in 1990.
All right, wait a minute now. The spike protein was the vaccine. Remember? Warp speed, Pfizer created it. Now we see that's total bullshit. This was developed, the spike protein, in 1990.
Did you hear what I just said? 1990. Operation Warp Speed? I'm sorry. Where's the warp and the speed? Pfizer, 1990, the very first spike protein vaccine for coronavirus. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it fascinating that we were told that, well, the spike protein is a new thing. We just found out that that's the problem. No. As a matter of fact, we didn't just find out it was not just now the problem. We found that out in 1990 and filed the first patents on vaccines in 1990 for the spike protein of coronavirus.
How come no one has discovered that? How come? Well, that's not true because they've been shut down by the WHO World Health Organization, by the U.S. Health CDC, by the U.S. government, Fauci. 1990, the first patent on the spike protein.
And who would have thought? Pfizer. Clearly the innocent organization that does nothing but promote human health. Clearly Pfizer. The organization that has not bought the votes in this chamber and in every chamber of every government around the world. Not that Pfizer.
Oh.
Certainly they wouldn't have had anything to do with this. But oh yes, they did. And in 1990, they found out that there was a problem with vaccines. They didn't work.
Listen up. Listen to this.
You know why they didn't work? It turns out that coronavirus is a very malleable model. It transforms and it changes and it mutates over time. As a matter of fact, every publication on vaccines for coronavirus from 1990 until 2018, every single publication concluded that coronavirus escapes the vaccine impulse because it modifies and mutates too quickly for vaccines to be effective. And since 1990 to 2018, that is the published science, ladies and gentlemen. That's following the science.
Is that why they kept saying, you got to have the next booster? You got to have the next booster. You got to get the next one, and you got to get the next one. It's because, and I remember this, I remember them saying, well, it mutated and it morphed. Well, apparently, we all knew that. Pfizer knew that. Pfizer got the patent in 1990.
Following the science is their own indictment of their own programs that said it doesn't work. And there are thousands of publications to that effect, not a few hundred, and not paid for by pharmaceutical companies. These are publications that are independent scientific research that shows unequivocally, including efforts of the chimera modifications made by Ralph Baric in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. All of them show vaccines do not work on coronavirus.
There you go.
That's the science.
He just said vaccines, by their own admission, vaccines do not work on coronavirus. Fauci, how come you did not release this? How come Pfizer did not release this?
And that science has never been disputed. But then we had an interesting development in 2002. And this date is most important because in 2002, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill patented, and I quote, an infectious replication defective clone of coronavirus.
That word, that phrase right there, infectious replicative, whatever the hell he just said. Let's back that up because that is important. That's super, super important. Write that down.
And that science has never been disputed. But then we had an interesting development in 2002. And this date is most important because in 2002, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill patented, and I quote, an infectious replication defective clone of coronavirus.
You know what that means?
Listen to those words. Infectious replication defective. What does that phrase actually mean?
Drum roll, please.
For those of you not familiar with language, let me unpack it for you. Infectious replication defective means a weapon. It means something meant to target an individual, but not have collateral damage to other individuals. That's what infectious replication defective means. And that patent was filed in 2002 on work funded by NIAID's Anthony Fauci from 1999 to 2002. And that work, patented at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, mysteriously preceded SARS 1.0 by a year. Dave, are you suggesting that SARS 1.0 wasn't from a wet market in Wuhan? Are you suggesting it might have come from a laboratory in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill? No, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling you that's the facts. We engineered SARS. SARS is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The naturally occurring phenomenon is called the common cold. It's called influenza-like illness. It's called gastroenteritis. That's the naturally occurring coronavirus. SARS is the research developed by humans weaponizing a life system model to actually attack human beings. And they patented it in 2002.
Let's just repeat that one more time. Oh, I can't. I can't.
In 2002. It is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The naturally occurring phenomenon is called the common cold. It's called influenza-like illness. It's called gastroenteritis. That's the naturally occurring coronavirus. SARS is the research developed by humans weaponizing a life system model to actually attack human beings. And they patented it in 2002. And in 2003, giant surprise, the CDC filed the patent on coronavirus isolated from humans in violation, once again, of biological and chemical weapons treaties and laws that we have in the United States. And I'm very, very precise on this. The United States likes to talk about its rights and everything else and the rule of law and all the nonsense that we like to talk about. But we don't ratify treaties about, I don't know, defending humans. We conspicuously avoid that. We actually have a great track record of advocating for human rights and then denying them when it comes to actually being part of the international community, which is a slightly problematic thing. But let's get something very clear. When the CDC in April of 2003 filed the patent on SARS coronavirus isolated from humans, what did they do? They downloaded a sequence from China and filed a patent on it in the United States. Any of you familiar with biological and chemical weapons treaties knows that's a violation. That's a crime. That's not an innocent oops. That's a crime. And the United States Patent Office went as far as to reject that patent application on 2 occasions until the CDC decided to bribe the Patent Office to override the patent examiner to ultimately issue the patent in 2007 on SARS coronavirus. But let's not let that get away from us, because it turns out that the RT-PCR, which was the test that we allegedly were going to use to identify the risks associated with coronavirus, was actually identified as a bioterrorism threat by me in the European Union sponsored events in 2002 and 2003, 20 years ago. That happened here in Brussels and across Europe. In 2005, this particular pathogen was specifically labeled as a bioterrorism and bioweapon platform technology. Described as such. That's not my terminology that I'm applying to it. It was actually described as a bioweapons platform technology in 2005. And from 2005 onwards, it was actually a biowarfare enabling agent, its official classification from 2005 forward.
All right, we're going to stop that there. I think we all got the point. This is unbelievable. So when I ask, have you been lied to? Have we been lied to? You make the decision. Now, if you look up Dr. Martin, man, there are some trash talked about him from the U.S. government agencies, the CDC, the WHO, and I would expect that. Of course, they're going to talk shit about the guy. There's also some articles in China speaking highly favorable. I would expect that as well. Obviously, that's no big deal. I mean, I would expect all that. He's taking the light and moving it around. He's exposing the truth. Coronavirus was engineered as a weapon. The bottom line, as a weapon. The spike protein, the jab, was patented in 1990, not Operation Warp Speed. That obviously is smoke and mirrors. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable that we continue to be lied to. Now, I was talking to someone about this, and they said, wow, man, you're hard on the U.S. government. Aren't you a patriot? Yes, I'm a patriot. I love this country. Look at my shirt. I bleed red, white, and blue. That doesn't mean lying to your citizens is acceptable. I don't care who you are. Look at Beaufort County. Look at Charleston County. Look at Dorchester County. Look at all of them. Clarendon County, for God's sakes. You can be a patriot and not agree with and allow your government to run ripshod and lie to you. Look at other times. Look at the Tuskegee Airmen. That was a huge lie. They lied to him. Now we see that COVID-19, this is a lie. The more and more we go, the truth is coming to light. They say you are a conspiracy theorist. I say you are right on. We keep digging. Don't blindly just say yes. Do your homework and learn for yourself. Mom always said, believe nothing what you hear and only half of what you see. Dr. Fauci lied to us.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
I would, like I said earlier, love to hear your comments. Put them on your chat bar. We had, I think I had somebody come in. Lynn, yep, doctors and attorneys hijacked. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get to our guest back there in the green room. We're going to bring him out, and we'll get back to that conversation a little bit later. Our guest tonight, a candidate for South Carolina House District 98, which is either primarily or only in Dorchester County, a portion of Dorchester County, just up the road here, a piece from us. He is battling incumbent Chris Murphy for the Republican nomination. He is a third-generation veteran, having served in the United States Air Force and served several tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, all combat tours. He's a 2010 graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University with a Bachelor of Science in Professional Aeronautics and a 2018 graduate of the Citadel Military College with a Master of Science in Leadership. Currently working on his doctorate. I understand he's 9 credit hours away from a doctorate in leadership education, Charleston Southern University. He's married to his bride of 26 years, son and daughter there. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Greg Ford to the show. Greg, how are you?
Pretty good, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Well, hey, thank you. We appreciate finally getting to meet you. Having you on here. And before we go anywhere, I first want to say congratulations. And most of all, thank you for your service. I take it you're a pilot. That's what all that means, right?
No, sir. I'm a load master. So air crew member on the back of the C-17. So spent about 13 years in a special ops qualification here at Charleston Air Force Base, C-17s here. So
gotcha. Even more important, without that shit being tied down. But I do thank you for your service. Appreciate that. And I want, as I had told you earlier, I want to be cognizant of your time. I want to jump right in. I interview dozens of candidates for dozens of different offices, federal, state, local, coroner, whatever. And something that right off the bat, I wanted to jump into this before I forget about it. I wrote it down here first. Something that I noticed that sets you apart, okay, in your race is that you have issued a pledge. I don't know any other candidates that issued an actual pledge. Your pledge to District 98. I want to read this little portion of this to you, and I have a question. And folks, this is a quote from Greg's website. Quote, "Our rights, liberties, and South Carolina traditions are under direct attack. Therefore, I will fight to preserve what rights and liberties that remain through voting. I will be a proactive representative by introducing legislation to the House restoring rights, liberties, and constitutional freedoms we lost. I will fight my utmost to my utmost ability. I will not waver in my beliefs. I will not relent in the face of challenge, no matter the topic. as if I was the sole representative in South Carolina, end quote. First of all, that's phenomenal. I mean, to have a candidate actually, put their name on the paper and pledge to their voters, that speaks volumes. I want to ask a couple of things, unpacking. I kind of like to unpack statements.
Yes, sir.
First of all, what gave you the idea, because nobody else is doing it, what gave you the idea of issuing a pledge to District 98?
So back in, I believe it was World War II, there was a young man, young private, if I'm not mistaken, that was a runner between the battalions. And he was running a message to the front lines, and he was killed by a mortar. And when they found his book, that pledge is similar to that one that he actually had in his book, that he would fight to the utmost of his ability as if he was the only soldier on the battlefield. So when I read that, that was very impactful for me. And being a third generation military, it kind of stuck in my mind. I wish I remember his name at this point. I didn't know you were going to ask me about that, or I'd have had it written down to make sure I had it. So I just changed the wording up on it because the intent that was there, hit me, dead in my chest. So I wanted to do something for our district that made people understand I'm doing this for them. I'm not doing this for me. Our current rep is, pretty good at that right now.
Yeah.
Is doing it himself. So I wanted people to understand this is for you. And that's before they started signing loyalty pledges up there. And that now, I get that question all the time. There's zero opportunity I'm going to sign a loyalty pledge to 80 representatives up in the State House when I represent District 98. So that's where that pledge come from.
I have mentored several county council members and those that didn't win, so on and so forth. One of them in particular, to this day, still says, "Hey, I'm here for the people. I represent the people." And I tell people all the time when running for office, look, you don't represent the government, you represent the people. And it's so refreshing, sir, to see you do this and hear you say what you just said. District 98 needs to listen, and we've got a ton of people in Dorchester tuned in right now. Your pledge is to those people. I mean, it doesn't get any more honorable than that.
Thank you, sir.
A statement that you have in there says, quote, "I will preserve what rights and liberties remain through voting," end quote. Now, reading that, is that in reference to possibly hundreds or thousands? I think it's multiple thousands of votes that Chris Murphy's incumbent simply has not been there for, or does that have nothing to do with this?
Kind of both. So we have a bunch of legislations that's up there that my incumbent or my challenger opponent has sponsored, written, authored, pushed, that basically limit your rights and liberties in some way, shape, or form, especially during the pandemic. There was legislation that he put forward that basically gave employees or employers the right to tell you that you needed to have a shot. And he stood in front of us and told us because we're a right to work state. Well, I stand for medical freedom and individual autonomy, and I will not stand for that one bit. So when you start listening to that question, is one, it is, I want to preserve what we have left. That's the whole reason why I'm running, is because I see, the opportunity of my kids slipping away and my grandkids. I don't have to run. I stood up and said, I will, because no one else is standing up in Dorchester County against these guys. So I decided to go ahead and run to preserve what we have left for my kids and grandkids to where they have the same opportunities I had, and other kids as well. It's not only about my kids. It's about, they're the ones that's driving me right now because they're, close to me. And I didn't put a uniform on for years and years and years and come from a military family to preserve the rights, that everyone cherishes from the United States, and watch it slip away. Even when I was flying Iraq, Afghanistan, helping them build a, democratic republic, and watching ours fall apart. Going into my incumbent, the reason why I decided that this is a position, one, because the state of representative is your last stop from the federal government coming down to the citizens. And my incumbent, or my representative right now, 3,196 votes. that is missed opportunities or abandoned, if you want to say, my rights and liberties, your rights and liberties, or the 38,000 people in District 98. I will not have that. I grew up under the core values of duty, honor, respect, or
Absolutely.
service before self,
Yep.
excellence in all we do, and integrity. Duty. When I sign that dotted line, that means that is my job. And people who's helping me with my campaign, they know this is we're going to go get it. And I will make sure that I represent District 98 to the best of my ability, just like that pledge says. Whatever I can do, I'm going to try to do. And we're going to do it honorably and with integrity.
You also said, quote, you'll be a proactive representative by introducing legislation to the House restoring rights, liberties, constitutional freedoms we lost, end quote. Greg, what are your opinions about possibly removing legislation, not adding to it? Like, can we accomplish the goals of removing government centralized control as it's happening every day? We see it a little bit more. Can we do that? Can we eliminate some things? Not just add legislation, but start getting rid of some legislation.
Absolutely. So right now we have some redundant laws and we have stacking laws. The worst thing that we can do is create more laws on top of what we already have that we're not enforcing. Just convolutes or starts eroding at the root of laws that are already in place or codified. So there's a saying, a government that governs best governs least.
Mm-hmm.
Need to put this back to the American people and start restoring some of these rights, liberties. We have all the way down to, medical rights. We have property rights that's in question at this point right now. What is considered property rights, gun rights.
Mm-hmm.
They just gave us constitutional carry. We should have never had that issue. It should have been years before. Second Amendment's pretty doggone clear to me. It says shall not be infringed, and every Republican should have voted for it right off the bat. We have a supermajority up there that should not have ever had an issue. Life, there should not be an issue with abortion. We should have a supermajority voting for it day one. We shouldn't have an argument. Taxes. Geez, oh Pete, how much taxes are we going to have? Every time you turn around, they're trying to tax us on something, but yet, we have them sending out mailers right now that they cut 0.5%, but yet they forget that they raised your gas tax, your registration tax, your stacking convenience tax, your, whatever. There's taxes everywhere. We just had a millage increase right here in Somerville. It's taxes everywhere. But yet they're going to look at that one income tax. So in my opinion, you're asking what we can do. The first law that I want to put in place, or first bill I want to file, is to completely eliminate your state income taxes day one, not over a 5-year period, day one. We're going to figure out how to do that. I will find experts and we will write that law properly and introduce it, and I'll walk it around. I'll talk to whoever and we'll try to make it happen.
Are you figuring that based on, I guess it would be Tennessee, or I think Florida too, but I know Tennessee. Are you basing it on their kind of model? Is that, if you've looked into that?
So yes, state of Florida has a zero income tax. It's been time I was in the military, and we lived down there for a short time. They have there that's built off of tourism, different things along those lines, which we have some of the same things here. We need to figure out how to make it happen. When I talk to legislators right now, one thing that they tell me is they can't pull the ripcord on income taxes right off the bat. So there's something there that we got to figure out on why we can't do this all in one fell swoop instead of over a 5-year period. But we also have an excess every year, which gives them the opportunity to give $1.3 billion to a foreign entity for EV Scout, or give fee and lieu taxes to whoever, or just earmark how many millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of earmark garbage do we just have in our budget? Excess taxes, and it all comes from different things that they tax you on. But yet the one tax that we all agreed on at one point 14 years ago was a gas tax. Where the hell is our roads off of our gas? We should have the best roads in the whole country.
Yeah. And you all have a big problem with that in Dorchester, like we do here. But I know yours has been, reading about you, I read a lot about that, and there's some problems there.
We got some issues. We got some overgrowth, and our infrastructure is not keeping up. So we need to figure that out. That is definitely a big topic on our folks.
Real quick, I had someone text me that they could not hear Greg. I turned his volume up. If there's anyone else that can't hear, let me know. I see Lynn comment. Obviously, you can hear him. You're commenting on Greg, and thank you, Lynn, for that comment. But if anybody else has a problem, let me know, and I'll see if I can't figure it out. But let's continue. And thank you for that, Greg. Senate Bill 915.
Perfect.
The healthcare czar bill, so to speak, been widely talked about. It got canned last session due to what I'm going to call a perfunctory situation thrown out by Representative Josiah Magnuson of Spartanburg. Like the bill or don't like the bill, sending it to conference committee. This is my opinion. This isn't anybody's but mine. Sending it to a conference committee will at least get whatever the outcome is going to be and get it done one way or the other. What is your opinion of the bill and the games that are being played by both the South Carolina GOP caucus and the Freedom Caucus?
So I know about the bill. I know, kind of the situation that they're in. I don't know all the inner workings in the State House other than Josiah actually stood up and, stopped it the last minute through a parliamentary rule. The bill itself, so I have some issues with it. One, I see it as a centralization of government, control on our healthcare, which that goes against my stand for healthcare freedom. So I have a little bit of issue with that. But then I'm also seeing some issues down with the bill on who actually, benefit the most from it. That's my troubling part is how do we have a contract on a building that's not bought, but it was done prior, the amount of money, we don't know how much it's going to cost us over a 10-year, 15-year period. They have closed down different organizations. They want to consolidate 6 different organizations, but they haven't said that they're closing it down in a time period. They can't give us a, overall cost of the manpower. And then, my opponent, there's a Post and Courier article that was written November 15, 2023. My opponent actually read that bill into the House. And one of his comments in the article was he didn't know where the actual wording originated. So now we have a representative that barely shows up, comes in with the biggest bill that's in the House, and he reads it into the books and doesn't know where the hell this stuff come from. I have a problem with that. And to make it even worse, there's a Representative Gilda Cobb Hunter from Orangeburg, Democrat, that stands up and says, shouldn't the state be in the of actually purchasing properties instead of giving our property away and then renting it and then paying for the maintenance? What are people doing? I'm struggling. I'm outside looking in going, this doesn't make sense.
No. The interesting thing, and I've been knee deep in working on that with different factions of groups. One of the misnomers is about the czar. And I understand people on that side don't want somebody, I get it, don't want somebody telling them. However, it is already in law. What we have already, it's already there. So that is something that they're not creating. It's already there. However, when speaking with my own couple state reps here that I work with, my state senator, the big problem that I have had, and much like what you just said, this is going to cost building only, okay, is $340 some odd million. They agreed to $20 a square foot, double the average price for that's going on now in Columbia. The guy who happens to own the building is the largest political donor in the state. His name is Bill Stern. Sure, he's a great guy, but he's the biggest political donor, and the state's going to rent a building from him at $20 a square foot. The cheese doesn't smell good with that. That's just stuff you don't do.
Yes, sir.
right, wrong, or otherwise. You just don't do that. That's a problem. And the thing about the cost, that was my last parting shot with my local senator. And I said, you're supposed to have a fiscal cost. Anytime you enter a bill, it has to have a fiscal page attached to it. That's part of the process that you're going to see. And it wasn't there. And they're trying to say, well, you can't put a cost on this. And I do not buy that. I just don't buy it. Much like yourself, I just, I have a hard time with this. And anyway, enough about that. Are you a Freedom Caucus guy or a House GOP guy?
Well, I've already said I'm not going to sign a pledge, so that's automatically going to land me in the Freedom Caucus.
Okay.
So I have talked to all the Freedom Caucus guys. We mentioned in the very beginning of this internal games. I don't know all the internal workings other than what is reported.
Mm-hmm.
So their voting records is probably close. We stand for the same things. Not everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had discussions. If I come to the Freedom Caucus, I'm not going to be, tied into a vote as a group. I don't represent them. I represent 98 once again. So if I'm in the Freedom Caucus and, majority of District 98 tells me they want, 30-week abortions, I'm going to have to vote 30-week abortions, is even though I don't agree with that. If I say I'm going to, represent District 98, I need to represent District 98 100%. I don't want to get into abortions, but we've had a lot of discussions about different things. And I am a constitutional conservative.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution will drive me. There'll be three things that I look at for every bill. Does it limit your rights or liberties? Does it cost you anything? And does it grow the government? If it's one of those three things, it's going to be a no vote for me. We need to figure out, we need to, reduce our government. We need to reduce our costs, and we need to give the power and the liberties back to our people. Is we, the people, give the government works for we, the people, not the other way around. These there, they need to realize that, when they say when we sign a pledge and we work for 80 different representatives and they're
mm-hmm.
voting together, they just left me. My voice doesn't matter in District 98 at that point.
Right.
So
good answer.
Kind of to where we're going. So
good answer.
99% sure I will end up.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Your opponent has been knee deep in the middle of controversy, really from almost the get-go, whether it's, and this isn't stuff that I'm making up, ladies and gentlemen. This is stuff you can read about it. All you got to do is put his name in and click enter. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's not being there, not voting, and of course, nepotism. Murphy's wife, I believe you say her name, Maite, obviously, thanks to her husband's position in the state house, was being considered as an associate judge on the South Carolina Supreme Court. Now, she did back out. She backed out of consideration. Total smart move. And we agree with that. Some news outlets believe she got her circuit court position due to Chris Murphy's influence. And even recently, it's been mentioned by some folks that his brother, Magistrate Michael Murphy, has gotten a promotion to family court judge, allegedly, due to his brother, Chris. What say you to all of this type of nepotism that must be going on in the State House?
So both of them, his wife and his brother, are judges, and I believe it's the second and the third, second and fourth district, if I'm not mistaken. But I know Maite is one of the main judges here in our area. I've looked at some of her cases. I know the law some, but looking the way that I would kind of read down through the scripts and figure out judgment or whatnot, they seem to be on point. So I don't have much of an issue with that. I have a bigger problem with the way the selection is, with the Judiciary Committee selecting the three top, people that they deem necessary, and then they give that to the main floor. So if Chris, when that happened, Chris was Judiciary Chair, and he was pushing for those particular people. There was a report written by Fitz News about nepotism. I have no proof of any of that happening at this point, other than the votes and who was the victorious person out of the vote. They just did a judiciary reform that now is going to allow, if I'm not mistaken, the six top people that'll go to the floor. I need to go back and refresh on that. They just passed it not too long back. So there was some movement on it. But I think it needs to be down to the voters. They need to campaign just like I do.
Mhm.
Because if I vote for them and they're in my district, they're probably going to be the people that I show up in front of court, in front of for a case.
Right.
But then we also need to disconnect the 13th juror in our state, if you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
A judge can actually hear out a jury trial and figure out, they can say, we're going to award this person $1 million for suffering, whatever. Well, the judge can come down and go, no. We're going to make it 10 million.
Mhm.
They can change that. So we need to get rid of that.
Mhm.
That right there allows us for a lawyer that's standing in front of them, such as Chris, or any of our lawyer legislators, Dorchester County, every one of them is a lawyer legislator except for one. And they can actually be standing in front of that judge that they now have control over, because one of them is still sitting on the judiciary. And if that judge wants to stay on the bench, they need to kowtow to that person.
Right.
But then it's a, potential conflict of interest when you stand before them, in a trial. So I have a big issue with that. So we need to definitely get it, away from the legislator. South Carolina and Virginia, the only two that has anything in the So we need to figure out how to get that right and fix our legislative system, period.
The question comes up a lot about lawyer legislators and if that's a bad thing or a good thing. And I think lawyer legislators, just like maybe plumber legislators or truck driver legislators, can be fine, except when they sit on the judiciary or they're part of the JMSC. It's the system, just as you said, how we're doing it that needs to be worked on. You can't go from where we are today or yesterday and do a full 180 and all of a sudden it's 100% elected by the people. It's not going to, I mean, that's great. That'd be superb, but that's not going to happen. That's not realistic. And I think, I agree with you 100%. We're moving in the right direction. We need to keep pushing that, that ball uphill. I'm glad to hear your position on that. And JMSC was actually something I wanted to get into, but you've answered everything. Helga, one of our reviewers, put a note in there, and I agree with her. She said the Bible is not a factor. I agree with her on that. I think that, yes, those items you were talking about a few minutes ago, I would add the Bible to that if I was in office as something to go by. Greg, my next question, Dorchester County, since you're there, the folks in 98, and we kind of touched on this, you're not alone. So folks in 98 don't feel like it's only you, but a lot of counties have road problems. It seems that Dorchester County just simply cannot get roads paved, repaved, repaired. Why is this? And is it more of a local issue at the county council level or transportation commission? Or is this a state problem with the legislative delegation and SCDOT? What's happening that it's not being done?
So I've been doing some research on this and talking to a lot of folks, and apparently there's a roads commission or something along those lines up there that some legislators sit on, and then there's the DOT that's hooked in somehow. So there's a process to get these roads selected, and I'm not 100% sure on the whole process. But one thing that has been made clear to me is if you go to Florence, some of their roads are phenomenal.
Most of the roads.
Greenville is phenomenal. But Speaker of the House, Merle Smith from Greenville, I'm not sure which one of the main guys is over in Florence area, but they're pulling a lot of pull to get that money allocated to those areas. So our guy that's never there can't pull money to Charleston County or Dorchester. And when they do get it here, there's some regulation or some red tape rules, from what I'm understanding, that keeps them from getting the money to the pavement. So not sure exactly the entire process, but there is some internal scenarios that's up there in the State House, from what I'm understanding, that we need to work through to get, the money down here and then get the roads allocated.
It goes to say that you have to be present.
You can't without being present. You can't even spell the word. It's ridiculous.
So only because you mentioned it, let me give you the headlines of Florence County and why their roads are friggin' meticulous. And that's because of, God rest his soul, past Senate President pro tem, or Senate President rather, Hugh Leatherman,
There you go.
who was in office since, God created dirt. For one reason or another, let's just say that concrete goes real well in Florence County and roads get done. And let's just call it that. So that you're right there. You're right there with why. But you have to be present.
So if these guys are powerful and they're sitting up in the legislation or up there in the House, why should the people of District 98 in Charleston County, the fastest growing county or area in the state of South Carolina, suffer?
That's right.
I'm paying state taxes. I'm paying registration tax. I'm paying everything, just like every one of my, constituents will be. What in the world are we doing here?
Yeah.
We need, representatives that actually stand up and get this stuff done and quit playing.
And I think that obviously one can deduce from what I just said of how those roads got done. That's not how it has to be. You don't have to, be the Senate president, or you don't have to be the Speaker of the House, but you have to be there and you have to lobby, for your people. The Dorchester County legislation, or the delegation rather, I meant, however many that is, whoever it is, Chris and whoever else is up there, they should have been present and making a case for those people in your district. And for whatever reason, maybe because he wasn't there, that's a good place to start. You're not getting the road funds. So final two questions. And I ask these of all my guests. First, why Greg Ford and not your opponent?
One, because I show up. I understand duty. That's one thing. Two, I'm not a lawyer legislator. I'm fully retired. I can go up there and be in that office and work. And I'm not owned or establishment. There's talks about, you have to have friendships, whatever. I understand how to work with people. I was in the military for years and years and years, all over the world, in Native, whatever. I understand how to work with individuals and actually communicate and negotiate. But it's time to change out blood. This guy's been in there 7 terms, and right around 30% of the time, 30.5% of the time, he's not there over his 7 terms. That's not just 1 year. That's over the whole term. There's one year that he was not there 63% of the time. We got to, look at things slightly different. And this guy, it's questionable. There's some things that's not quite right that we're trying to sift through to figure out the answer for right now.
Yeah. And maybe he's, if you're not going to be there, maybe, maybe his heart's not in it. Maybe he needs to just, I used to have employees that, tell them once they were gone for a while, come back. Hey, you obviously have other things you need to be doing. So I'm going to help you out with a career move. That's what you're doing. You're going to help him out with a career move.
If he was a man, I'll put this right out. If he was a man and he knew all this stuff was going on, he would not have filed to run for the race right now. If I end up over 10% that I can't be there for whatever reason, I will not put my name back on the ballot. District 98 constituents deserve better. Period.
Love it. Last question. Are you having fun yet?
This has been a challenge. I'd much rather, I told my wife the other day, I felt more comfortable flying into Iraq and Afghanistan and Balad.
Yeah.
Because I was going in there with special forces and we had the training and we had everything. Right now, this is a logistical nightmare trying to keep everything going all together.
Right.
But I am having a great time going out and meeting people. I've had minimal negativity towards receptive. Folks want to talk. Talking politics is very unnatural to me. Being in a military family and being in the military for so long, that was banned from us. So talking politics, but the root of the Constitution, very highly, in my persona, that we're not having an issue with that.
Awesome. Greg, it's look at this as you're in front of all however many 30, 40,000 or whatever it is in your district. Last thoughts, comments to the voters. I'll give you the floor.
So the biggest thing is we have a representative right now that's hadn't been there, full time. Even though he's had your vote full time, he hasn't been there full time. He hasn't stood for the same things that conservatives have. Save women's sports. We've had a little bit of an issue there. Constitutional carry. He's held in the judiciary chair position for several years. Hate crimes bill. We don't want hate crimes bills in our state, and he's one of them sponsoring it. There's a video. He's voted for it. He'll tell you right now that he wants EV Scout. He's giving your tax dollars away. He's taxing you, raising your tax in other areas, and giving it to a foreign entity, and you're still going to be paying for it. There's more to come on that too with Dominion and Santee Cooper and the infrastructure grid for the power. There's more to come with that. He's championing this health czar bill. So he, centralization and growing the government, he's okay with. What is the other things? We have some stuff that you and I talked about on the phone. We have potential things going on right now that is allocation of money issues with a place called Iron Wolf Recovery. We have some scenario right there that we $250,000 of your money given to someone that has a rehab unit supposedly that's not in existence, and there's no more money. Not doing rehab. That was just the beginning of this year, just a couple months ago. So we have some things that's going on top of this 3,196 days votes that he wasn't representing your rights and liberties. Have to change this out. District 98. Now, here's the other thing. A lot of folks don't understand. I'm running for District 98, but I affect every single person, even you down there in Beaufort. I will do legislation that affects you. So South Carolina deserves better than this. So I'm asking for the vote on June 11th. And here's the biggest thing. I went and put a uniform on. My family's put a uniform on. There's 15 of us, 16 of us that's either retired or serving still. We fought and put a uniform on to give the right to vote to the American population to preserve this democratic republic. Please go vote.
Absolutely.
Please go exercise that. We serve to make sure you have that. Go vote. I don't care if it's for me. I hope it's for me, but go vote. Go exercise. Sitting at home, silence is consent. And we don't have time for that anymore. So that's pretty much, what I got.
We certainly don't have time for that anymore. Greg Ford, ladies and gentlemen, running for South Carolina House District 98. Vote now. I think early voting ends tomorrow at 5:30. Vote on June 11th. That's primary election day. Dorchester County, for all those folks, there's a ton on here right now. This guy right here has your interests at heart, not his own. Greg, thank you for being here. You're always welcome. Greg Ford, ladies and gentlemen, please come back and join us again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Rock Authority. Big Patriot Radio.
I wouldn't tell anybody about this.
Man, I tell you what, we say we don't dabble in the primaries, but I can tell you right now, Dorchester County, if I had a residence there, I would have already checked that box and given my vote to that man right there. Greg Ford, running for District 98 in Dorchester County. All right, keep going here. It is 20 minutes past the hour here on Big Patriot Radio and Beaufort County's House of Cards. Again, we just finished interview with Greg Ford. Prior to that, we were talking about the big lie. Did you know you've been lied to? Again, if you want a copy of that video, I'll be glad to send that to you. However, just let me know. Lynn, Mike Tiller, everybody, yes. I say that there's early voting just because there is, but get in on election day. Please go and vote. So anyway, we were talking about the big lie. We'll keep talking about that because this is huge. This is huge news. I want to carry on to something else, other news. This evening, earlier, a group known as the Technical Working Group on Hilton Head held a press conference at the Hilton Head Library. They were alongside the Gullah community of Hilton Head Island, also the Hilton Head Bluffton NAACP, I understand, to announce their working relationship in solidarity and expressing their opposition to SCDOT plans to construct a massive, like 11 or 12 lane bridge from Bluffton to Hilton Head, replacing the existing, yes, that same bridge that we voted on when yours truly was in county council, and we had the sales tax for this already collected, and the sales tax referendum is over, but there's still no bridge replaced, no shovel in the ground. This whole subject's been the blunt end of arguments, the ass of arguments for a long time in jokes. The dysfunctional county council and Hilton Head Town Council fighting back and forth, not to mention the two governments. This meeting tonight was also in opposition to plans of putting new 278 lanes on Hilton Head as you come off the bridge going to the island or coming to the bridge going off the island. That would literally destroy a large portion of the Stony community. And that is the only community that is left, aside from like Mitchellville, but Stony. That is the only historically Gullah area left on the island, the only ward, if you want to call it that, because that's how they vote over there, is in wards. Now, this group has put together, a southern bypass recommendation, if you will, that has been getting completely ignored by the town staff and mayor. Again, allegedly, this southern bypass would not take any bit of the Gullah land left on the island. Now, I got a video from tonight's meeting, but I'm unable to take it from where I received it and put it into this format here. I probably could, but I don't know how to do it and don't have time to do it. So I can't show you the video. We'll have to work on that. However, we do have, and I'll let you see this. And again, if you want a copy of this, what I'm getting ready to show you, which is the southern bypass, there you see how to improve corridor traffic flow and reduce the impact on Stony. If you want a copy of this, I'll be glad to send this to you. This is the draft. I'm assuming this is what they presented tonight. Or rather to the town here in the next few days. I'll tell you about that. There'll be some changes, but this is the draft. And in this draft, and I'm not going to read this, we'll be here a while. You've got 40 pages of data. This is the technical working group. This isn't the government. This isn't town council. This isn't county council. They could not do this. They would not understand how to do this. This is a technical working group, citizens of the community that put this together. Now, their spokesman, Steve Bear, I happen to know personally. This is the kind of lingo and drawings and so forth that he uses, and the guy is on point. The guy is on point. This stuff, again, and I'm not going to keep going because it's page after page. I'll be glad to share it with you as long as they give me the okay to send it, and I'm sure they will. You know, this is important. If you're on Hilton Head, if you're in Bluffton, hey, if you are Gullah, in St. Helena or Seabrook or Gardens Corner or anywhere else for that matter. These are your brothers and sisters whose land is getting ready to be taken from them. I would think you would want to be involved in the preservation of history. I would think. Anyway, email me at bigpatriotradio@gmail.com. Again, that is bigpatriotradio@gmail.com, and simply request what it is you're looking for, and we'll get that to you. So the question is begged, what is the big deal exactly? What is the big deal? Why are we having to have this technical working group press conference of solidarity? Well, it's a power struggle, ladies and gentlemen. That's the real reason. It is a power struggle. It's a power struggle between the county, along with Council Chair Joe Passman, and the town of Hilton Head. The county threatened, yes, they threatened the town that if they did not give municipal consent, the county would just go ahead without the town's approval. Well, that's what Joe Passman said. And that went over like the proverbial fart in church. Passman and the county eventually backed off that threat, but here still we are. Now, do you want to see an 11-lane bridge? I mean, that's 3 driving lanes on both sides, 2 side lanes on both sides, and a bike lane. I mean, that may be 12 lanes. I don't know, but it's a lot. And they call that a superstructure. The SCDOT and the county is proposing to take Gullah land away in the Stony community in Ward 1. Now, I don't know how that's being a good neighbor at all. I don't know. The Stony community and the Gullah community across the county is upset. They should be even more upset, and they are rightly so to be upset. Just as upset as the argument that I have placed with our county delegation that brought back $50 million from the state to Beaufort County, or I don't know, it's 35 million, maybe that's what it was. And 50,000 went to St. Helena Island. I mean, you know, while I'm not a diversity, equity, and inclusion, all that bullshit, but I am fair. And $50,000 split up to St. Helena for whatever that was for. That was a slap in the face. Okay, let's just be real. That was a slap in the face, in my opinion. And you know, so the Gullah community across the Broad River needs to speak up. They need to speak up for their brothers and sisters over here, because you know their land's getting ready to be taken away. And where's the queen, by the way? Where is the queen? I mean, she was loud, proud, and in charge with the LVO Tropiano and the Pine Island debacle, and that came forthwith to be a lot of not truth. And now the Gullah Island over there is saying, you know what? And I don't know if I had anything to do with this or not, but I did say you're going to regret it because the golf course could be better than a bunch of houses. And now that's what they're saying. Anyway, the queen, where is the queen? Now she's gone. Her land, her people, getting ready to be taken. The town of Hilton Head is having a workshop on the 15th of June at 5 p.m. at Town Hall, and then the vote at Town Council on June 17th. The technical working group asked me to tell you and ask you to please pack the house. Pack the house at the workshop. Pack the house, especially at the meeting on the 17th. Stand up for your community. Whether you're in the Gullah community or not, stand up for Hilton Head Island and the right of the people who live there.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
Don't forget, I want to hear your comments. A lot of folks chiming in. Please, we've got a couple of more stories, and one of them is really big. This first one, just to clarify something, last week we had Catherine Templeton on. She's running for CD1 against Nancy Mace and Bill Young. Catherine and I have shared comments back and forth since. I can tell you that she told me that she appreciated our conversation and she appreciated my advice. Just yesterday, she sent me a statement, and I'm going to paraphrase. She advised that she had went to Google. She looked up the comment about Aspen, the Aspen. Oh gosh, my brain just stopped. The Aspen Institute and all that. She said she went and Googled it. She said, I saw it. She contacted them. She said, I saw it on there. I emailed because I am not a member and requested they remove it and take it down. I gave it some time, like a lot of time. Went back onto their site and typed in Catherine Templeton in the Aspen site many hours later. And it is true. She's removed and the statement is up that she is not a member. So anyway, just throwing that out there. I did want to, let you know that did come about.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Patriot Radio. News, country pop, and classic rock.
Well, there is a big story brewing out there, kind of like hurricanes. They're brewing. Big story brewing out there, and this outlet was one of the first to bring it. That is the story of the recent hiring of new county administrator Michael Moore. If you look back to my last show, I told you that it is South Carolina FOIA and ethics law that, quote, finalists' names must be released to the public. That is a quote. The term finalist means, according to ethics and FOIA law, means any number set by a council no less than 3. Okay, no less than 3. Got a couple people chiming in here. Lynn was a member and she was green. Okay. I am member of Liberty Fellowship. Gotcha. And she may be. I'm just reporting. I was asked by a guest to report that it's not on there. So we all can do what we want with it. I'm giving her that benefit of the doubt. Told her I would let everyone know. Anyway, back to county council. Beaufort County didn't do that. They did not announce anything. We have information that allegedly Beaufort County Council, under Chairman Joe Passament and Vice Chairman Larry McKellen, actually took votes in executive session. Illegal. Not only about Moore, but that was vote 3 or 4, possibly 5, as they took votes prior to Moore for their first choice. Someone by the name of Toby, I hope I don't pronounce this wrong, Chapel, maybe it's Chapel, of Greenwood County. Chapel, I'm going to just go with that. Chapel, allegedly, after getting an offer, sent back a counter offer. The county met again, council, and accepted it. The council had a contract for him. And that is up for debate whether it was the council or the county attorney. I got another comment. I'm disappointed that you didn't read what I read about the Liberty Fellowship. It seems, no, I am not promoting anything. That's quite the, Lynn, that is absolutely false. I don't promote anyone. I give people the option of all flavors. Left, right, pro, con, fat, skinny. It doesn't matter. I put them all out there, and it's up to you all to decide. Not for me to tell you what to do. It's up for people to decide. Why wouldn't I bring the truth out then? The truth is for you to discover. The truth is not subjective. The truth is the truth. Feelings are not the truth. All right. So we can go more on that here in a little bit. Again, let me make sure everyone understands the guest, and I would do this for Bill Young. I would do it for Nancy Mace, the gentleman we had on here tonight, Chris Murphy. It doesn't matter. The guest asked to have something clarified. It is up a journalist that does not do that is not a journalist. That is someone who gossips. So we put it out there, deduce however anybody wants, vote for whoever you want. The choice is yours. And that's what makes this country so great. Anyway, let's go back again, because this is extremely late breaking news. So then this Chappelle, backed out of the deal altogether. He said, no thanks. Again, counter offer. That's it. I don't want anything to do with it. So yes, there are 3 to 4 or 5 votes behind private votes now, behind closed door meetings that have had to have been had for them to create the contract or contract offer, accept a counter offer, move on to the next guy, et cetera, et cetera. Did the county attorney get this direction from Joe Passament, from or for? Does Passament, does he not know or understand ethics and FOIA law? It's right there in black and white. But then again, this only makes the case to the T for what I have been saying about county council for years now. County council should have its own legal representation. That's right. They do not. If you think county council has its own legal representation, you're short-sighted. So who represents them? Well, in this county, the county attorney represents them. So let me clear this up even more. Beaufort County has a county attorney in office. They work for the administrator. Administrator is the government and are paid. The county attorney is paid by him or her, the administrator, or the government. Their best interest is the interest of the county, the government. Now, county council is there to represent the people, the citizens, the taxpayers, not the government. County council's best interests are supposed to be the people. Let me say that again. County council's best interests are supposed to be the citizens, you, not the government. That's the check and the balance. So for anyone to say that the county attorney is also the attorney for county council is absolutely preposterous. It doesn't make any common sense. Hell, take a look. Let's just look, for example, at administrative courts. Who represents the county in the administrative court? The county attorney's office. If there is a case in administrative law court, or actually any court for that matter, but administrative law court, the county attorney is representing the county. How can they, the county attorney, serve two masters? They can't. They can't. This is common sense. This is common sense. We want to know, did the county attorney's office give county council advice to not announce the finalists? Did the county attorney, the office of the county attorney, give county council advice to not announce the finalists? Now, just today, the Island Packet and Beaufort Gazette issued a story of this same exact magnitude. Island Packet reports they have copies of the email where the county selected a candidate to offer the job to. That is Toby Chappell. Okay? Without publicly voting on it. That's where the executive session comes in. Executive session, I'm sure you all are aware, is where the doors are closed, the public is gone, and it's only the county council and the county administrator and the county attorney and any department head that they're having a conversation about. That's it. That's it. No votes. Again, look at ethics and FOIA laws. No votes. A vote can be aye or nay. It can also be this. It can be a raise of the eyebrow. I've been there. I've seen how they get by with it. That's where executive session comes in. As this network has reported before, and again tonight, the Island Packet confirms this all by saying the job offer to Michael Moore had to have had a vote in executive session because county council came out on 28 May, just, a few days ago, in their meeting, the regular council meeting, to announce they were hiring more. Think about that, folks. The only way they could have done that was to have a meeting beforehand, which we know they did, an executive session. To have it put on the agenda, they had to have had the meeting. They knew this was going to happen. It was on the agenda for 24 hours, as it has to be. They knew this was going to happen. That meeting, was run by Vice Chairman Larry McKellen, and he went right to hiring more. In fact, he presented more to the gallery, and that even adds more proof. If you're looking for proof, it's right there in front of you. All you have to do is look. He presented more to the gallery and the people on television viewing. It adds more proof that this was already set up behind closed doors. But they fired Greenway and Loper. But they did this 3, 4, 5 times behind closed doors. Illegal, according to the ethics and FOIA laws of this state. Are you freaking kidding me? No, I'm not. I've been there, seen it, called them out on it. But let's keep going. There's more to this. The Island, and Lynn, I'll get to you in just a second. And the Island Packet states that there is a May 20 email from County Attorney Tom Keaveney, and this is allegedly, according to the Island Packet. Actually, it's not allegedly according to them. They say there is. Keaveney to all county members providing an update on hiring Chappelle, Toby, Greenwood, the first guy. In this email, Keaveney tells County Council, quote, Chappell has countered the offer I conveyed to him Friday morning. Oh, what was that again? Well, let's take a look. I want you to see this exactly so there's no question as to what I may have just said. Let's bring this up here and go to that, into that. And how do I bring that up? There we go. Email excerpt from County Attorney Tom Keaveney to Beaufort County Council members, May 20th, 2024. Here's exactly what it says. The offer I conveyed to him Friday morning. The offer I, Tom Keaveney, conveyed to him Friday morning. Wow. Big deal, right? County Council never publicly voted to offer this job to Toby Chappell. Yet, the county attorney, the offer I conveyed to him Friday morning. But County Council never publicly voted to offer this job to Chappell. As the Island Packet reported, County Council never even mentioned, not one time did they mention Chappell's name in public, ever. Watch the tapes. Not one time did the man's name ever come up. I heard it out from County Council members, not on screen, not in county business, but in conversation. I heard it. The Island Packet had several quotes in the article. I hope you go read it, from Jay Bender. He is one of the, if not the top expert in this state on media and government law and ethics. Quote, the decision was made in executive session as to who the one was going to be, and that's illegal, end quote, said Bender. So when Larry McKellen, vice chair, led the meeting on the 28th of May, he quickly got to the vote and did not allow any discussion. There was no discussion on the matter. The Island Packet and other outlets have been pressing Beaufort County hard. I mean, they've been pressing them hard on this item. Chairman Passelman won't talk, refuses to talk about it. Some people have said to me, well, he's chicken shit. Well, maybe, but he's not saying anything. Kevin, he won't talk about it. But the PIO person, or the whatever they call the public information person now, did talk. And they've talked out of both sides. Imagine that. As the spokeswoman who is the spokeswoman, told news outlets that, quote, the only vote council took was on May 28th to offer the position to Moore, end quote. But when asked specifically about Chappell, Toby from Greenwood, and asked the previously unknown person to the public, the candidate, over and over by news outlets, the spokeswoman said, quote, well, we can confirm there was a vote held May 16th authorizing the county attorney to negotiate with that candidate, end quote. All of a sudden, her story changes. Per news reports, that 16th of May meeting wasn't held in public. That meeting, too, was held in executive session. So how many times are we going to give county council and Chairman Joe Passelman, Vice Chairman Larry McKellen, County Attorney Tom Keveney a free pass? How many times? How many years do they get by with free passes? When will others decide that enough is enough? When are county council members going to grow a set of steel cojones and say in public, not executive session, in public, that they've had enough? When will they say that? When? When will county council grow a set of balls and say in public, we've had enough, my constituents have had enough, the secrecy is done, the backroom deals are done, we have to be transparent with our citizens? This week, one just did that. Absolutely. At a public facilities meeting, Councilman Tom Reitz of Hilton Head, he's the one who beat old Stewie Rodman. Tom Reitz was speaking, and Joe Passelman opened up his mouth and tried to shut Reitz down. Reitz came back with, hey, it's my time to speak. Why can't I speak? Passelman yelled something quite unintelligible, to be honest with you, out of his mouth, and Reitz calmly sat there, advised he is here on behalf of the citizens, and they should have a voice. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. Committee Chair Logan Cunningham gavelled them both out of order and brought order back to the meeting. Passelman was in the wrong, and he knows it. I've known the man for a long time. The camera got on him. He sat there. He knew it. He was wrong. That was wrong. It wasn't his meeting. It was Logan Cunningham's meeting to chair. He was just there as an ex officio. He spoke out of turn, trying to shut down someone speaking for their constituents who, oddly enough, voted this man into office because the previous stalwart cared more about his personal efforts than the citizens. To the other 10 council members, if you don't speak up publicly, not in executive session, that means nothing. Talking in executive session to another council person, that means nothing. In public. If this is for the people, by the people, it's got to be in public. Sal, so if you do not speak up and demand this nonsense stop, you are simply complicit with the behavior patterns they have set forth actually years ago. To those council members, if there is any, that are afraid of Passelman or afraid of McKellen, we even have reports coming in that Stu Rodman's name is coming back up trying to get back involved with it behind the scenes, with demands and with bullying. I have some things to say. First, you have a duty to your constituents. This is to the county council members, those other 10. You have a duty to your constituents to do the right thing. Second, if those 3 or anyone else is doing the bullying, the behind the scenes, the dirtiness, you have an obligation to your honor. Yes, to the constituents. You have an obligation to your own self-worth and your honor and your office to let it be known. And third, if you just can't do it, I just can't come forward. I can't do it. If you can't, let me know confidentially. It will be confidential. I will be glad to do and help what I can, what is necessary to help get that point across. I will say this. If you know it's wrong and you don't do anything about it, your time on county council will most likely be very short. And if you know it's wrong and you don't do anything about it, and you know your time on county council will be very short, it's probably best you go ahead and leave now. Just my opinion. Crooked does not win the war. They might get a victory here or there, but there's something I heard in church just recently. The light always comes after the darkness. The light always comes after the darkness. Capiche?
All the wickedness and filth this world has to offer.
Rock music that shatters your bones. Big Patriot Radio.
That's some serious rock.
And you're responsible.
All right, we're coming around turn 4. Let's see some comments we got here. Ivy, hey, how you doing this evening? Same setup as the school district. Absolutely, they're set up to mimic one another. The attorney works for the district but advises the school board members, and that makes absolutely no sense. You know, the school board, I'm not even going to repeat myself because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And why these people they say they understand it, but they don't do anything about it because the county attorney told me no. Screw the county attorney. You don't work for him. He doesn't even work for you. If you want your own, you need to talk to the school board chair or the county council chair. And if they say no, then maybe you need to come public with it and explain why. Why do you think you need your own legal representation as county council? Oh, is it because it's the voice of the people and they're not being represented? Only the government? Wow, that's a very noble. Gee, Mr. Passament or whoever the school board chair is that true? You don't want, all of a sudden things will change. Things will change. Debbie, hey, how you doing? What they're out there in Sun City? Templeton said at a Sun City meet and greet 2 days later, she proudly stated that Tim Scott, Trey Gowdy, and A.G. Allen Wilson are also part of the Liberty Fellowship. Yes, they're all part of the Aspen Institute, etc. Stated on the website. They are all the establishment who have done nothing for we the people. Fantastic. And you're probably right. You may be right. Again, I am giving the offer to a candidate who has been a guest on the show to say what they want to say. As I've said to everybody, I'd love to have had Bridget Frazier on here, probably the most demonstrably different person than me, and I agree with zero that comes out of her mouth, except for we both believe in Jesus. Other than that, I don't agree with her. She can say what she wants to say. I'll give her the air time to do it. It's up to you to decide, not for me to tell you what to do. That's up to you. I just provide the conduit. It is important for a journalist to bring the facts. It is important for a journalist to bring the issues to you. You, as a listener or a viewer, decide what is right, what is wrong. I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner. I'm bringing it to you. There are people, I guarantee, who listen tonight about the COVID discussion that I had, who either turned off or looked at somebody else and said, this guy is nuts. I don't agree with this at all. I brought this to you. You decide if it's true or not. Another example. This is for those, specifically Lynn, who was talking to me. Another example. I believe, and I know you do as well, in paper ballots, same-day voting, voting in secret, opening in public, specifically at the precinct level. There are people who will vote similarly to you and I who think that is whack. A lot of the young folks don't understand that. They're completely computer. You have to understand, people have differences. That doesn't make them bad. You decide. I've had Mark Cook on here, leading expert on paper ballots. I know there are people who have watched this and said, I don't agree with that at all. And that's okay. You decide. You decide. So I think we've embellished that as long as we can. So anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to Greg Ford, candidate in District 98, for coming on tonight. What a guy. That is a candidate I can get behind. I'm real impressed with him. Wow. Just, I can't say enough. It's been a pleasure to meet him and listen to him. Dorchester County, get out there and vote. I hope you vote for this guy. I see good things. Hold him to the fire. Hold his feet to the fire. Hopefully, you folks will go to our patreon.com page. You see it scrolling below, or to our Venmo. Help us out if you can. That's what helps bring these people on. Keep new things coming. It costs to put the bills out here. Pay the bills. We don't charge for this, but anybody can help out. We certainly appreciate it. Your donation keeps that independent journalism cycle going and going and going. We are planning, as of right now, to do another election night coverage show, but we need some show sponsors and advertisers. We put it out there. Your business will get more coverage, I can guarantee it, than anywhere else in the Low Country for that day and night. You will be on on BigPatriotRadio.com all day and all night. You'll be on here. We'll have your logos up. We'll give you commercials. Nobody will give you as much airtime as we will. Reach out to me. Let's get it going. Again, that address, shoot me an email for anything. BigPatriotRadio@gmail.com. That's BigPatriotRadio@gmail.com. What else? I encourage, seriously, I encourage everyone, pay attention directly to what is going on around you. Pay very close attention. Be sure you and your family are always safe. And until next Thursday, good night, America. And watch your